Hey art groupies, I'm starting something new today. I'm in the mood to do some freeform shape kind of art. So I've got here this one that I made that's inspired by one of my all-time favorites, Joan Miro. Here is a Joan Miro original. He was a Spanish artist who painted about 130 years ago. Kind of a surrealist painter, and that means that he was doing some things kind of dreamlike and abstract, and sometimes his titles revealed a little of what was going on in his paintings, but sometimes you couldn't tell. Like this one kind of looks like a bird that's, who knows? Like sometimes they looked a little bit alien-like. His people were super abstract, but you can make something that is a subject of some type, or you can just go completely abstract. I tend to be more of an abstract person, so I kind of went abstract on this. But if you're going to do this today, one of the things I recommend doing is always warming up, just like any athlete, any musician, any dancer would. Freeform shapes look like they're really easy to draw, and they can be, but you want to warm up first so that you have the most success. So a lot of times it doesn't matter what it is, notebook paper, any kind of paper, something that you have a lot of, that you don't care a ton about. And I'm just going to kind of make like real fingery, kind of like wiggly shapes. And if you notice, I'm really trying to keep my wrist still, and I'm just doing the wiggly marks, and they're organized scribbles. They're not really meant to be anything right now. Just layering them on top of each other and just kind of getting my arm warmed up and just kind of paying attention to the shape I'm making, so that I can, even though it's not easy to see, I can kind of tell if I like where I'm going. If you feel like you need more time warming up, flip a page, do a little bit more. I might do it this way. Might even practice making a couple of really large ones, and then maybe even practice doing sort of what I'm planning on doing, which is making some type of design out of it, layering my freeform shapes. When you layer freeform shapes, you want to try to make sure that you're not making too small shapes, because what I love is how they layer and then you get more interesting shapes. So I'm going to start on a piece of watercolor paper. Whatever is some of the good paper you have at home, pick one of those when you're ready, when you're warmed up. And so what I'm going to do here is start drawing, I think, let's see, one big shape. I'm going to go slower now. I want it to be kind of an interesting shape. Going in and out and then connecting there. So one huge shape. And then off of that one, I'm going to make some smaller ones. Let's see, I think I'll start here. And I'm really trying to make sure that all of my shapes I'm creating have enough space that they're not too tiny. And if I made that first one so wiggly, little shapes can be good. Now this one over here, maybe this is a good one for me to kind of go in and out. Over, there we go. And I might turn this around. Sometimes I do better when I'm drawing at the top of my paper. This is something you want to kind of realize about yourself. Get yourself set up for drawing your best. If it means flipping something around, like since this is abstract, I can. There's really not one point of view. It could be this way, it could be this way, this way, this way. You just decide which one you like the best. Now that I have that done, I'm going to outline this with some black oil pastel. And I'm going to plan to paint this in with some watercolors. Now you can do any materials again with this. If you have crayons, I would use a crayon. If you have Sharpie, you can use Sharpie for outlining and drawing. If you have colored pencils, anything. So this is one of those, any materials will work. And keep in mind too, when you're outlining, don't worry if you're not perfect at staying on the lines. I'm not always perfect at staying on the lines. They're guidelines. So it's okay if they show up a little bit. I'm not even worried about erasing them, because sometimes erasing them can make more of a mess and draw more attention to the fact that there was a pencil line. And I've even noticed in museums, of all places, looking at famous paintings that are hanging on the wall, that every so often you can see their pencil lines. And I kind of think that's cool. It definitely shows that it's been made by somebody's hands. I like that kind of look. And lately, even in my own art, I've been really into texture, like adding texture. And I'm a painter, but adding like these little bits of texture with the oil pastel or crayon, or I use China marker a lot of times in my own artwork. There's something I really like about it. A lot of artists have used texture like this. The other one, who is one of my all-time favorites, is Sonia Delaunay. She will color in with like a graphite pencil. So pencil even could look cool. In fact, I might even switch. Let's see. I'm going to grab a brown here and add a little bit of a dark brown to this just for fun. More texture, experimenting with texture. And that just adds a little different dynamic. And then when you start adding paint to it, and you could do it'll just be interesting. And you can do the whole thing in colored pencil if you wanted to. But let's see, I'm going to add 1, 2. I like to do things in thirds. It's 3 of anything in a work of art kind of creates a little bit of a triangle, keeps your eye moving around things. So trying to keep odd numbers when you're doing things kind of helps. So I've got like my 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That looks pretty good. Now I'm going to move on to paint. Today I've got a paint set that's similar to what we have at school. And I always like to have my little water bottle, if you had me as a teacher. And I like to always have super clean water for my paint. So I put a tiny little bit in the colors I know I'm going to use. And you really don't want to overdo that. Just a tiny little bit. And that will get it softened up. And then your paint's always really clean. So let's get my brush, make sure your brush is really clean. Because this water in a second is going to turn dirty when I'm changing colors. But if you put perfect water in your paint, then you always have perfect paint colors. So I'm going to get this all stirred up here, and I'm going to get this painted in. Once you get this painted in, and this will take me a little bit of time, so you don't have to watch me paint the whole time, but once you get this all painted in, think about if you like the background white, or if you want to paint it a color, and if you want to add things. And the one thing that I loved about Miro is that sometimes he just added random stuff. So and I didn't add circles and things around mine, but I added circles on this one, bigger ones that I painted in. Then I added some dots by just coloring my, oil pastel like this. And then I had taken, I think a black pencil and had just made some little like star marks around it and added some extra things. So that's something you can do. You can even draw on these. Sometimes I think it's fun to just kind of draw right on top of your paint and just keep adding. If you have gel pens can look really cool on paint. So something like that, or an opaque marker of some type, which means opaque means that you can't see through it. It's not transparent. You can do it with whatever kind of colors that you like. So I'm going to keep working on mine here, and I'll probably post a picture of a couple finished as well. And I hope that you have fun with this, and we'll do some more art again later. Bye.